So is there a reliable functional integrative psychiatrist in the area who will apply all the options, including meditation, diet, and others, before placing this younger future generation on medication? That's one question. Any spiritual role of spiritual health in this pandemic? What's the root cause of rise in mental illnesses? What are the parents missing?
Firstly, I can
also ask you a headache question that'll come next. So we have to, I think we got to go through these questions real quick.
I think about the functional psychiatrists, as far as I know, there are functional doctors are typically not psychiatrists. So there are psychiatrists that do integrative psychiatry, which is combining functional medicine and psychiatry. As far as I know, there's not anyone that I am aware of in the Charlotte area. But I think people have a misconception is that psychiatry is all about medications, because the model of practicing psychiatry, the science behind psychiatry itself is biopsychosocial. So the first modalities of treatment is, how can, nutrition, sleep, circadian rhythm, what we put in our body, exercise, substances, what the food we eat, those things do impact our mental health. So when you go to a psychiatrist, it's going to be a comprehensive treatment plan that includes healthy eating, good sleep, exercise. For those that needed, acupuncture, or you want to make sure no other medical illness is contributing to it, or nutritional deficiency or vitamin deficiencies and things like that. And then there's psychotherapy, which is the whole mind-body connection, the brain, and that affects your body and your behavior. Medications is the last in that process. So I think part of the reason why people equate psychiatrists with medications is by the time we see a child, a lot of times these things have already been done. In fact, we are the last ones to see the child. The first people that see the child is the nurse at the school, or the teacher, or the ER doctor after a suicide attempt, or a neurologist who's seeing a child for repeated headaches and everything is showing up negative, or the gastroenterologist who's doing all kinds of tests where the child is constantly vomiting and things like that. So oftentimes when you get to a psychiatrist, every other condition has been ruled out, all the modalities have been tried, and then you come to a psychiatrist. So oftentimes it's severe enough, some kids do warrant it. So medication is not the first thing, it's actually the last thing in that biopsychosocial approach. I think Cecilia want to segue into the headache part.
Yeah. So I think it's very important for us to make that distinction, because I see a lot of kids with concurrent, headaches and having a lot of comorbidities. And my first, sorry.
I do think that you wanted to, before we go to headache, did you want to address the spiritual?
Yeah, I'll address it together because it's all anyway linked. Yeah. I'll keep it short. But just to take from this point, which Kalpana is bringing, is very important, because the first things that we do as neurologists, we depend a lot on our psychotherapists for cognitive behavior therapy, which is a very, very, useful measure for older children, older than 5 years of age, to help them manage their headaches. So we also don't start medications immediately for children with headaches, because there are a lot of underlying causes that may cause this headache, especially in this pandemic. I've seen like a staggering increase in the number of headaches, right? Because it's just that they are in front of their screens, and a lot of other secondary causes. So one thing I've realized through practice, I'm probably the youngest among all of our attendings here today, that science, like medicine as such, we are very dependent on facts and evidence base, which is, all of us believe in that because there is shown evidence that this is working. But at the same time, all of us have that humility within us to respect that there are factors and there are, forces that work beyond our control, which also impact our, day-to-day life and our behavior. So that's where my interest in spiritual health came in, because I saw having a spiritual path for me helped me a lot in my own journey, whether it be stress through medical school, because that was the most stressful period, and then coming into residency, etc. So I think spiritual health, physical health, emotional health is all sort of combined as one. And when I talk about spiritual health, for the most part, I'm talking about whatever path you follow, right? Whether it be meditation, whether it be mantra chanting, whether it be focused awareness, there is science behind it. There is definitely a neuro pathway that is involved, which improves. So all of them are positive, but one cannot depend on it solely. So when your child is showing you signs like Jairaj mentioned, completely like staying in his room, closed his door, this child, the first step cannot be meditation. He needs evaluation. So we need to recognize if it's subtle signs, then maybe, starting, first of all, as adults, we have our own practice, then we can bring our children into such a practice. So without us trying it and experiencing the benefits, it's very difficult to force our children into meditation or force our children into anything. And the foundation of most meditations are breath watch. So if you see maximum number of studies, etc., if we look at it, it's breath watch. That is one of the most useful. Apart from that, whatever path or even a faith, if you have, you follow that. And beyond that, for people who don't have a faith, there is nature, and stay connected with nature, because it is one of the most beautiful ways to get your children out of the house and to connect with nature. It really deviates their mind a little bit. So these are ways that I talk to my children who have headaches, give them this advice that, I talk to the families as well, that if there is a way that you can start to spend time exploring your inner being, which is interoceptive awareness, we call it in the neurological terms. And then you have your exteroceptive awareness, where everything's going on outside. And the pandemic, for some reason or another, forced us to face that part of ourselves too, which is our interoceptive awareness and what's going on within us. And a lot of us are facing challenges as parents, as adults, as individuals, facing our own emotions of fear, anxiety, and we have to, like Kalpana said, adapt to that. So how much more for our children also to adapt to that? So that's where I would say having a path or a spiritual path is very helpful if that's something that resonates with you. But know that that's a balance. There is a fine balance in science, and we should always, speak to the experts before we make that decision.
Yeah, spirituality is important, yes, of course. And, there are people with no faith at all, and whatever brings you joy or causes that oneness with the universe, if it's music, whatever works for you. And also, if I can briefly mention, and I think there's a lot of negativity around psychotropic medications. Medications are not all bad, as we know, like we've saved millions of people because of medications, because of the pandemic. This world would have been wiped out without the vaccine, if this happened 70 years ago, we would all be dead. We are alive because of science and a lot of advances. So medications are not always bad. There are certain conditions, like, if you're a schizophrenic, if you're bipolar and your safety is at risk, or you're psychotic, you need medications. So they can be life-saving. So, not all psychiatrists, we are not pushing medications, and people always have a choice. It's always a good idea to have an open mind, to discuss the options, learn the pros and cons, so you understand that these gamut of things that you can try that can help your child. So when it may be a right time to consider medicines too. And you can always choose not to medicate your child, but medications are not all bad either.
Okay.